It's been 6 months since I started using the MacBook Air, and during that time I've had some good experiences and some not so good experiences. In this video, I'm going to talk about my experience over those past 6 months and how the machine has fared. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Wayne, and today we're going to talk about the MacBook Air and my experience with it. My MacBook Air journey consisted of not just one, but two MacBook Airs. Now the main purpose of getting the MacBook Air was to replace my wife's aging 2013 version. Now when this machine was released, all the videos on it talked about how great the performance was and so on. But at the time, we weren't really interested in upgrading the machine. She liked it and everything was working well for her. Fast forward to August of last year, and I decided it probably made time for us to upgrade the machine, since we decided that we were going to start to travel the world and we wanted something that's a little bit lighter. I knew the MacBook Pros were coming out and I was going to hold off for that, but I wanted to see what the performance was like. I tried talking my wife into getting the upgraded version, but she just wanted to stick with the base one, being cost conscious as most accountants are. So anyway, I purchased the base machine for her and got it set up, transferred her files, and everything was ready for use. So let's spend some time talking about that first machine from my wife. When the unit arrived and I saw how small it was, I was really surprised. I haven't been into an Apple store for some time or in the store to check out PCs. Anytime I see them in Best Buy, Costco, wherever I go, I just walk past them because I wasn't in the market for one. My work machine was a 16-inch version and I love the screen size, so a 13-inch really wasn't for me. After receiving the machine and I put it on top of the old machine, I realized how much they've shrunk the machine from the first version and how much more lighter the machine is overall. I was intrigued by that. Now, while I normally am not interested in a 13-inch machine, I pretty much like the design of the screen inside this one, how the keyboards were laid out with the speakers on the side. So that led me to start to play around with the machine just to see what it was like. The first thing I did was to install DaVinci Resolve and Lightroom on the machine to see how it would fare. Now I ran into some problems there because it didn't have that much space on it. Again, the base one, and it comes with a 256GB hard drive, 8-core CPU, 7-core GPU. But I still wanted to see what it could do. After seeing her use the machine over time and playing around with it for some time, setting up the machine, I realized that I really like the weight of the machine. What I really wanted to know was how well it would perform. When trying to edit some videos on it, it actually worked much better than I expected. The machine never once crashed. It never had any issues during the time that I was utilizing it, and I was really surprised how well it performed. So much so that I decided, you know what? I can probably replace my desktop machine with the Mac Mini, because the Mac Mini had a fan inside of it. The main purpose behind that was I tested that 7-core GPU machine against my Threadripper machine, and it actually beat it in render time. And also just normal editing, everything was really smooth, and I love that. I mean, who wouldn't want something that just like runs smooth without any hiccups? You know, when you're scrubbing through the videos, on my Threadripper machine, it would hang. It would stop, the sound would drop off for a minute, so you can go back and forth and just hum. On the machine with a 7-core GPU, never had an issue. So, okay, let's go for the Mac Mini. The Mac Mini turned out to be a dud. And at that point, I was very disappointed. I spent a couple days trying to get it to work. Out of the box, I couldn't get it to install on my 32-inch monitor. The software would just not run. I used an external monitor, and that allowed it to install, and then I was able to utilize it. However, after 2 minutes of use, it would crash. I would say the longest period of time the machine ran without any crash was probably about 5 minutes. You try to open anything, install software, crash. And I got really annoyed and sent it back. And at that point, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to wait until the MacBook Pro comes out. But then something said to me, why not go for the 8-core GPU version and see what it would do? And at that time I thought, I should probably go with the 16 gigs of RAM and probably terabyte hard drive. But when I saw the price for it, I was like, no, because I know I wanted to get either the 14 or the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Wasn't sure what the performance was going to be, but in the back of my mind, I knew it had to be better than this one. So what did I do? I ordered the second level up, which is the machine with 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, and the 512 gigabytes of RAM. That became my desktop machine after testing it again against the Threadripper machine, and it was just smoking it. It was taking less time to render the video than it normally would take a Threadripper machine. Let's say a 12-minute video, Threadripper would do it in about 15 minutes. On this one, it probably did it in about 10 minutes. The performance was so great that I was really shocked. I had to replicate it and keep doing it over and over just to see, is it really this good? And yes, it is. I did a video about it. Didn't get a lot of traction, not sure why, but I explained all that information there. So hopefully you guys will watch the video and see what I'm talking about from that time frame. With everything going so well with this machine, I decided to hook it up to my desktop monitor and use it as my main machine. And I'll tell you, it worked flawlessly. Didn't have any issues, it just worked pretty well, and I enjoyed the experience with using it. But of course, all was not hunky-dory. I had a software update, and after the software update, the machine started to crash. Now, that was weird in my mind because my wife's unit, the 7-core GPU version, never crashed. Not once. Nothing. It was the most perfect machine I've ever had. It never crashed. Even when this one had a software update, it crashed, and I couldn't understand it. They were running the same software, I tried to mess around with things. It didn't make any sense to me. There were times when I did a video and I rendered it and I wanted to test it on the other machine just to see how it was. The 7-core GPU version actually rendered the video in a few seconds better than this 8-core GPU version. Go figure. I don't know what it was. Maybe that one didn't have too many files on it because of the smaller, disk space. I didn't put too many videos on there. I worked on everything externally. I don't know, but it was just so weird. Now, that being said, overall the machine is pretty good. It was just that, you had these few little hiccups that started to annoy me and I couldn't figure out what it was. But eventually, I chalked it up to the software. Something in the software update made this machine unstable. And once that started to happen, I had a couple crashes. It also would, throw errors that it was out of memory and something of that sort. And I found that odd because the other machine wasn't doing that, but this one was. And at that point I was like, you know what, I'm gonna send this one back. This is just ridiculous. I don't understand it, it's kind of crazy. For most of the time utilizing this machine, it was doing quite well. And I decided that rather than give up this machine, even though it had its hiccups and crashes, I decided I wanted to keep this one. So when the new Mac Pro came out, MacBook Pro, what I did was I traded her machine in on my 16-inch MacBook Pro. And we've kept this one ever since. This is her machine. My account is on this machine. I tend to use this machine more than she does. And the odd thing about it is, even though this unit is hers, when I'm around the house doing stuff, it's so light that I enjoy working with it. For those of you who use DaVinci Resolve, you know that you have those two monitors that's up there. One when you pull the video in to do your cuts and edits and so on, and the other one that you do your playback on. Well, it was not working very well on this small screen, but then I figured out how to use just one screen and get that to work. And since I figured that out, this thing has been a dream. So yeah, while I do have a more powerful machine, this machine is the one that I use a lot around the house. The MacBook Pro basically sits on my desk as my editing machine. Every so often I'll take it off and do some work on it. But for the most part, if my wife is not using this unit, I'm using it. It got to the point where she says, so we're gonna get another machine? I'm like, what do you mean? She says, yours. She says, nah, you use it more than I do. So we're still thinking whether or not we should get another one and replace this, because of course the limits that you now run into, this is one of those, let's call it downsides. If you're looking for one of these machines and you do a lot of video editing and you're going to be heavily doing that, or anything that requires a lot of data, I would highly recommend you upgrade the memory and the SSD. Now let's be clear, while this machine can do some video editing, it's light video editing. I do 4K video edits and it worked very well. I don't have a lot of graphics or any kind of fusion edits that I put inside my videos. I'm still learning that stuff, so you know, as I learn I may start doing that. But what I realize is for the stuff that I do, I have no hiccups. It works fine. So that's why I tend to end up using this when I want to sit downstairs rather than be upstairs on the main machine. This does everything quite well. So the downsides is it doesn't have a big screen and it doesn't have a big enough hard drive space or memory. So even with the downsides I mentioned, I still love this machine. The size of it is fantastic. Would I want a bigger screen? Heck yeah. That's why I got the 16-inch version. Would I want a bigger screen and still have a light machine? Yes. Now, if they could make a 15-inch out of this and keep the battery a little bit lighter and, you know, keep the thinness as much as they can, and say keep the weight right around what the 14-inch version is, 3.2, 3.4 pounds, they'll have a winner. Definitely something that, you know, I'd want to get as a second machine. Well, not for me, for my wife. But you know how that goes when you're married, right? You all borrow each other's stuff when you use it. It's really for me. Shh, don't tell her I said that. My 6-month experience with this machine, even with ups and downs, there were more ups than there were downs. There are more good things to recommend this machine than there were bad things. And like I said, if you're looking for something hardcore, this isn't your machine. However, knowing that this can operate at the level of a lot of desktop machines and not choke when it comes to doing 4K video, for the price, it's great. And know that you can go to the refurbished store and get it for even cheaper, hey, that makes it even better. Being able to go on Amazon when they have sales and get a couple $100 more off of it, great. And I think when they do a replacement, they're still gonna have a lot more of these around. So this is the M1 version. If you're looking for more power, at this time, you can go with a MacBook Pro because it has fans and it will give you a little bit more headroom to grow. But the M2 version that's coming out, I'm pretty sure they're gonna make it even better. Will it drop this spring? I don't think so, based upon the rumors. I think we're not gonna see a real M2 MacBook Air until fall. Yeah, I think fall was the last time it came out, in November or so in 2020. So we'll have some time to wait for that. If you wanna wait, sure. I wouldn't do it though, because you can work with this instead of sitting around waiting, and then you know that you can trade this one in, get some value on it. Believe it or not, I already started looking at this thing. For this particular one, it's about $660, I think it was I saw. I'm always looking for the upgrade. What can I get back from the machine? So if something else comes out in March that I really want, I already know what the value of this one is. I can trade it in and I can pick up something else and save me some money on that. Anyhow, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for sticking with me. Subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.